Hare Krishna, everybody. Good morning. Today we are going to be continuing our series on glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so we will get started. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the this this week and the previous week, we've been continuing on this series of glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, and so in that spirit, I will continue with the conversations here. I'll start off with the notion of Prasthanatraya. So in Vedic culture, there are these three subject matters, starting with the Upanishads, which represents the main four Vedas, and then we have um, the Vedanta Sutras, which is an encapsulation of the Vedas into aphorisms or formulas. And then we have Bhagavad Gita as the third literature. It's considered as part of the Itihasas or the fifth Veda. Now, these three, the Prasthana Traya, uh, essentially establishes the structure for various philosophical schools of thought. So, for a school of thought to be bona fide, they must have commentaries on these three um, uh, books, or let's call them as uh, topics. So one is Upanishads. They should have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra as well as commentary on Bhagavad Gita. And so, the I want to take us to the pastime in Chaitanya Leela, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is visiting Kashi and at the Vishwanath temple, and he is in this mood of Sankirtan, and uh, devotees are, or let's say, people are attracted by him, and word gets to Prakashananda Saraswati, who is a very scholarly personality in the Mayavadi school of thought. And so, there is interactions that are happening between Prakashananda Saraswati and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, Prakashananda Saraswati understands that, he says, why are you doing this? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that, well, you know, my spiritual master said that I'm a fool, and it is best that I chant the holy name of the Lord. And of course, Prakashananda Saraswati, understands that this is actually Nimai, and the glories of Nimai as a scholar was well known in the area, and he understands that there is more to this. And so anyway, there's conversations and dialogue that happens between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prakashananda Saraswati. And as part of that dialogue, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, again, he describes about how after the Vedanta Sutras were composed by Vyasadeva, he was still not very contented. And then Narada Muni, the spiritual master of Vyasadeva, he appeared and suggested that perhaps you should glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead a little more directly, because what you have done through the Vedas, and even the Vedanta Sutras, is abstract, and perhaps is flowery, and also could actually mislead many people. And so um, that is when Vyasadeva essentially uh, composes the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is I wanted to pick from where Yamunajivan Prabhu left off last time. He spoke about the Srimad Bhagavatam, verse number 3 from the first canto in the first chapter. I wanted to move to the next, and again, many devotees have talked about it. And every time anybody has to describe Srimad Bhagavatam, the first thing that come will probably come to their mind is Galitam Phalam, or this ripened fruit. And it is not just a ripened fruit, but it is also Amrita Drava, which means that it is Amrita or is nectarian, and Drava is it is it's not even like it's not like uh, chicky you get in Maharashtra and Mumbai. It's sweet, but you have to bite hard, and maybe you could probably risk losing your teeth. It's not even that. It's actually in a semi-solid form that you just have to open your mouth, and it will just flow in. And so the Srimad Bhagavatam, I'll just read the verse because it's a very beautiful verse. निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं सुखमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुक्तं पिबत भागवतां रसम् आलयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadev Goswami. Therefore, this fruit becomes even more tasteful through its nectarian juice, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Sorry, let me share my screen here. All right. So again, uh, the reference that is made here is it's a mature fruit. Um, it is a ripened mature fruit, and it is uh, in a state where it is very easily digestible, like literally no effort. You don't even have to bite on it. You don't have to chew it. It just flows in. You just have to open the mouth. That's literally the effort that is required. And again, it is relishable for all. Again, I can think of Alfonso mangoes. I can't think of anybody who doesn't like Alfonso mangoes. And is also relishable to the liberated souls, as in people who already have reached some level of spiritual perfection. Even for them, this doesn't tire them, or this doesn't feel boring. Now, um, we in the Vedanta Sutras, which again is the collection of the aphorisms or formulae, the entire of the Vedas that are encapsulated as formulas. The very first aphorism there is Atato Brahma Jigyasa, right? Now, therefore, inquire about the absolute truth. And when we get into Srimad Bhagavatam, the same Vyasadeva, he does not waste even one moment. His opening statement is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So here it is, he's not even, he's not wasting any moment. He doesn't um, want people to waste their time. And he presents, okay, here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. And, he's the Bhagavan, he's the Supreme Absolute Truth. So, O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universe. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. Like so, here we started off Vedanta Sutra with Athato Brahma Jigyasa, and in a way, even if you look at Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is first talks about, okay, here's the nature of the soul, here's who you are really, and then he gets into some of the dynamics and mechanics of what is duty, what is perfection of duty, and and progresses in that pathway. And here you'll see in Srimad Bhagavatam, like you just dive into the deep end of the ocean of this transcendental perfection. So that's the nature of Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no there is no wasting of time. You just dive in, and I like to compare this to when I think of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is what I think of. Let's say I have a sugar craving, and I let's say I have a craving for eating gulab jamuns, and I really do have a craving for gulab jamun as of this morning. And then this is akin to me trying to understand, I really want to know God. And then somebody says, okay, now therefore inquire about the absolute truth. And I want to feel gulab jamun. And then somebody says, okay, now, you inquire about how gulab jamun, how you can get gulab jamun. And, uh, so, one of the prescribed methods here is, I can go to college, I can understand the math, I can understand science, I understand the chemistry, I understand the physics, I understand a little bit about manufacturing methods, um, and then I can, I have figured out, what is the best method of how ingredients can be put together, and how it can be manufactured, and then finally I'll have a gulab jamun that I can taste, and then determine, how good is it, and will it actually satisfy my desire. So that's one approach, and uh, can is that you know, is that a pathway that is a, let's say, a bona fide pathway? Answer is yes, but how many of us can actually do that? And of the people who can do that, how long would it take if we were to engage on that pathway? My desire for eating gulab jamun would disappear, like even maybe the third day I get into school. And so an alternative approach is, you approach your mom, your grandmom, or find a Bengali in your friend circle or your community, who's an expert in making gulab jamuns, and you eat their gulab jamun, and then you say, okay, this is exactly what I want to make, and you learn from them how to make it, and you can perhaps master that in one or two iterations. So, and this is the in Srimad Bhagavatam too. There is no delay in understanding who is Krishna, who is God, in understanding the relationship uh, with God, and actually feeling the association with Krishna, who is the supreme personality of Godhead. Like this is probably the most important person. We feel really excited if we can meet uh, a social personality, and if we want to take selfies or take photographs, put it on Facebook or Instagram. And here's an opportunity to associate with probably the most important personality in creation. Um, and so another example that I like to draw upon is, I mean, when I was in school, I was not really a big fan of history. So how many of you have read history books? And how many of you found it really interesting? How many of you found it really boring? I'm one of those people who found it boring. reading history. But imagine that you were reading a particular history. It could be any history. It could be history of a particular city. It could be history of a particular mm, war. Any kind of history. History of how iPhone came into be, or whatever be that. Um, there is uh, there is a special joy or a spark in the eye when we try to understand the history through the words of people who were actually involved in making of the history, or people who knew somebody who was part of the history. Somebody would have been a driver of a personality that we are trying to understand. Somebody would have been a cook of the personality, or somebody would have been a friend of a cook of the personality that we are trying to understand. And there are facets of the personality or the subject matter that we understand that is not commonly available, and that uh, personal interaction essentially helps appreciate and understand and remember the subject matter. And another, I would say, example that I can relate to is I really like listening to following Srila Prabhupada CDs, DVDs, videos, and also reading the books by Srila Prabhupada's disciples that talk about their experiences with Srila Prabhupada. And as we do that, we understand, at least my relationship, my understanding of Srila Prabhupada, and the connection that I feel with Srila Prabhupada has amplifies every time. Um, and there is a inherent sweetness associated with the narrations, even though it could be chastisement, or it could be an extremely intense situation. Is still a really good you feel connected. You feel more directly connected with Srila Prabhupada because of the narrations of sincere disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And why is that the case? Why is it that we feel better connected, we have a better understanding of the person or the subject matter when it is being described by people who are close to the particular subject matter or personality? And that is really where the magic of Srimad Bhagavatam manifests. It's not just about the facts about the supreme personality of Godhead or the absolute truth. It is um, soaked in this sugary syrup called as rasa. And rasa, or nectarian mellows or flavors of relationship, in its various manifestations. And in the realm of rasa, we are not just developing knowledge about uh, Krishna or the subject matter. We are developing a relationship, and that relationship is, there is a certain satisfaction that people have when you understand things. There's a aha, and then there is a certain different level of satisfaction and contentment when you are in a good relationship. And that is the feeling of associating with Srimad Bhagavatam. It not only satisfies the um, aha of understanding the world around you, but also establishes in this very sweet relationship with the Supreme Lord and his parts and parcels. Now, in even in the corporate world, you'll see that companies, they strive not just for a single transaction with a customer, right? They want to build this relationship with the customer so that you know they'll keep buying from them for a very long time, brand loyalty, etc., etc. So this continued relationship or continued uh, contentment in the safety of the relationship is really important. Is really what Srimad Bhagavatam presents. we, in Srimad Bhagavatam, the eighth canto, eighth chapter, there's churning of the milk ocean pastime that is described. And what fascinates me from that is, again, as Mohini, Krishna in his avatar as Mohini, he attracts, or let's say, it's not just the asuras who are distracted by this beautiful woman, Mohini, but also the devatas. And so, similarly, here we are, uh, uh, you know, engrossed in our dealings with the material world and the various energies and issues, the good, bad, and the ugly, and mostly focused on our own self, and we are at the center. So we're trying to solve the problems with us as the center. And we get pleasantly distracted by Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very pleasant distraction. It helps us disengage, and Sachisuta Prabhu talked about it too. It allows us an opportunity to disengage from, the immediate issues that surround us, and we always feel like we are at the center, and these issues are because of us, and helps us transplant our consciousness into something that is more sublime. And that's the sweetness of um, Srimad Bhagavatam. So understanding um, understanding Krishna in his various flavors, various rasas, various forms, dealings and relationships. This is also, for me, what I find really attractive is also this notion of all contradictions ultimately converge in Krishna. So, telling lies, stealing, abducting women, warmongering, running off the battlefield, um, you know, being a boar or a pig. Uh, these are all, not necessarily things that scores very high on morality, but, breaking of promises. Um, so but when you and it's very difficult for somebody who is not seeing this through the eyes of Srimad Bhagavatam to actually be able to look at it and appreciate it as the glories of the Supreme Lord. But once we get into Srimad Bhagavatam, and once we get biased by Srimad Bhagavatam to some extent, uh, we actually see the multifaceted glories of the Supreme Lord. And we tend to put the Supreme Lord otherwise into a box. Like, this is how God must operate. That's not the case. He is the boss. He's the supreme boss. Um, the rules of the game are different. And I like to compare this to, often when you walk into an important meeting, let's say a board meeting, everybody is wearing, suit and ties and all that. And then, you find a person who's wearing a t-shirt and jeans. Most likely, he's the most important person in the room. And that is the sense that I get when I try to look at these various mm, apparently materially, from a material perspective, infractions from what the moral codes of conduct are. And these, in the eyes of the devotees, add flavor and um, the spice in terms of the personality of God. It's almost like a mother. It sometimes, you appreciate a kid who's naughty, and sometimes they brag. I mean, they complain, but internally, yeah, kids have to be a little bit mischievous. It's fun. It may not be fun in the moment, but it is fun, and helps complete that picture of a kid. And so, in that way, Srimad Bhagavatam helps us understand uh, the although the qualities of the Supreme Lord are infinite, it helps us understand the directionality, or how um, colorful are the qualities of the Supreme Personality, of gives us a flavor of that color, the varieties of color. Uh, and this is, Srimad Bhagavatam is not, this is also not a book or a subject matter that, we all have to raise our hands and say I believe in Srimad Bhagavatam, or say I believe in Krishna. No, this Srimad Bhagavatam uh, is is a tool for transformation. So, we may take up to certain processes. Let's say we want to lose weight, or um, you want to uh, become more successful in the stock market, or whatever be that. You may have different goals. Ultimately, the whether a process is working or not is dependent on the transformation that it brings about. Are you able to are you able to lose weight, stay healthy, and do that for a long period of time, as in consistency is key. And the same thing about, let's say, a financial goal. uh, are you able to make a killing in the stock market, and are you able to continue that consistently? And so when we look at Srimad Bhagavatam, this notion of transformation of the heart, transformation of one's consciousness, and being able to sustain that, that is the magic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Um, those who have taken up the process of chanting and associating with Srimad Bhagavatam cannot but be transformed inside out. It's just unavoidable for people who have sincerely taken up to chanting and associating with Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's actually, again, a nice verse I wanted to talk about very briefly. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, seventh chapter, verse number 7. Yasyam vai surya manyayam Krishne Parama Purushe Bhaktir Upadyate Pumsaha Shoka Moha Bhayapaha. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So, again, a lot of our um, everyday dealings are, even though we may have done certain things with good intentions, sometimes can have bad impact. Sometimes we fail to see some other perspective, or to understand um, an issue in its for what it actually is. So we are illusioned. And then there's always fear of a lot of insecurities that we may have. Um, and a lot of our daily dealings are surrounded with these fires of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. And at once, this just by listening or reading Srimad Bhagavatam, loving devotional service to the heart, in the loving devotional service in the heart, at once sprouts and then extinguishes these fires of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. I will finally end with two other verses. One is, I wanted to go back to um, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is from the Adi Leela, where Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami talks about um, Ek Bhagavata Bada, Bhagavata Shastra, Ara Bhagavata Bhakta, Bhakti Rasa Patra. One of the Bhagavatas is the great scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the other is the pure devotee absorbed in the mellows of loving devotion. So there are two Bhagavatas, the book Bhagavata and the person Bhagavata. Now, here in Naperville, Illinois, we are extremely fortunate to be in the close association of both. We are, again, we have these daily morning readings, and there's multiple other Srimad Bhagavatam reading groups that we have in the congregation, as well as we are fortunate to have many Bhagavatas, person Bhagavatas visiting us, who themselves are absorbed in this mood of loving devotional service. And so, again, I feel extremely fortunate to be here in the association of like-minded devotees and um, very elevated personalities who share their association with us. And then again, many devotees have talked about this. This is the very last canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 12th canto, and the very last verse, where Srila Sutta Goswami says, Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. It is most dear to Vaishnavas because it describes the pure and supreme knowledge of the Paramahamsas. The Bhagavatam reveals the means for becoming free from all material work, together with the process of transcendental knowledge, renunciation, and devotion. Anyone who seriously tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, who properly hears and chants it with devotion, becomes completely liberated. So, with that, I will stop and see if there are any comments, thoughts, or questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna,
I
Mataji.
feel I missed the first few minutes. I will go and hear again. It was so sweet. I think you should give this talk on Bhadra Purnima so that there'll be no set left behind. It's a very highly, inviting the sweetness of Bhagavatam and the fun it is and all that. Such a nice salesman talk. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it in that salesman language, but really it will attract everybody. So the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge, you are giving that in a more appealing way to every common man's senses. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing, Mataji. It doesn't require too much marketing.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Lakshmikant Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It was a nice class. I was just laughing on Sandhya Mata said nice sales, thing marketing and all. Right, but yeah, you talked about a few things, Prabhu, that got stuck to me. I mean, I could remember. One is about how sweet Bhagavatam is. I think Nigamakalpas Taror Galitam Phalam. Right, so I had a question on that, but yeah, maybe before that, he talked about how the Srimad Bhagavatam not only gives the knowledge about the Supreme, but also it helps us to develop that rasa with Him, right? By hearing the pastimes of the devotees who are engaged in those various rasas, right? Just by hearing the pastimes. So that was a nice point. I was just thinking about how it helps us. And then the second thing, at the end you talked about. Oh. It lost my thought from. So, but anyway, the question is about. I mean, there are few things. I mean, many pastimes in the Bhagavatam or Bhagavatam itself. I mean, very kind of like a juicy or whatever you mentioned, right? Very easy to understand and very. I mean, it doesn't need a lot of effort and all, right? But there are some sections. I mean, like very highly philosophical. I think I was hearing in another class sometime. It's like one of the top literatures, even for a person to understand. It's not very easy, right? At the same time, I mean, like from the, of course, Sanskrit and all, we don't need to worry about, because Prabhupada helped us to translate that in English. That's one of the highly tough literature from the Sanskrit perspective. I mean, some things, because that doesn't see those kind of Sanskrit things you don't see anywhere else. But even technically also some sections of the Bhagavatam is like kind of highly technical. So how do we understand that, Prabhu? I mean, from that Nigama Kalpataru Kalitam Phalam perspective, I mean.
Yeah, it's a very nice question, Prabhu. And actually, I actually wanted to talk about that part too. Like, we have the Purusha Sukta, which I believe is from the Rig Veda, if I'm not mistaken. But again, you'll see in the second canto for the sixth chapter, it says Purusha Sukta confirmed, where there is, elaborate, conversation, sorry, descriptions about, the whole Purusha Sukta, the creation. And every single time, two devotees meet, whether it's Uddhava and Maitreya, whether it's um, Kapiladev or Devati, or, every time two personalities meet, we end up in this conversation of creation. And that creation, topic can get a little bit complicated. There are also other various complicated topics within Srimad Bhagavatam. And the way I understand that is, there is this genuine curiosity that devotees have. Like, you know, uh, it's like a child who always asks the question, why? But why? But why? and uh, and so the there are two things. One is that Srimad Bhagavatam caters to, just like, again, Srimad Bhagavatam is the condensed form of uh, the Vedas, and actually a natural commentary or a purport to Vedanta Sutras. And in that sense, it has to have everything that is relevant for various categories of people. However, in whichever direction they may approach. Some of us may approach from, just understanding the Supreme Lord. Some of us may approach it from a philosophical perspective. Some of us may approach it from a more from an artistic poetry perspective. And, whatever perspectives that, different souls approach the Srimad Bhagavatam, has something to give to that person, and invite them in whatever frame that appeals to them into this rasa, into this universe of rasa. And so it creates that bridge, is how one way to understand it. The second way I understand it is that, a lot of these complicated topics, I see that, I don't really have much of an interest, and in the context of a lot of leelas and pastimes, it feels a little bit dry. And but my the way I process it is, the understanding, the faculty of knowledge, on in terms of spiritual knowledge, is not a cerebral exercise. Like, is this is that knowledge has to come from Krishna, from the Paramatma in your heart. And the Paramatma opens the lock, the door, and you go, aha, okay, I got it. And I didn't get it, 3 days ago, but I got it today. Nothing much has changed from my cerebral uh, faculty perspective, but, the heart is moved in a particular way. And so, the way I look at it is, we just have to stick with it, be sincere, and approach Srimad Bhagavatam, or the understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam, in a prayerful mood, not necessarily scholarly or I mean, I'm not saying don't critically uh, understand Srimad Bhagavatam. We all have to critically understand Srimad Bhagavatam, but the approach, the process of doing that is slightly different when it comes to Srimad Bhagavatam, or for that matter, any spiritual topic. I hope that answers your question, at least to some
Yes.
extent.
Mm,
I'm
Thank
I'm
you.
happy. I'm actually keen to know your thoughts too. How is it that you are processing it?
Yeah, so I was kind of, I mean, thinking, Prabhu, because I mean, at my stage, it may be not that juicy, but I mean, I was just thinking about Parikshit Maharaj, right? I mean, he is going to die in 7 days. It's not that he wanted to understand the scholarly part of it, that the creation part of it from that knowledge perspective, but he is trying to understand how great the Lord is, and also, I mean. He has already that developed that also, but at that stage he is asking, that means something more to it, right? Than what I am looking at it from the knowledge perspective, right? I mean, even that is one part. The other part I was thinking, to understand how sweet the Lord is, of course I need to know how great he is, right? Somebody can be nice, but he's so great, but at the same time he's so sweet, right? To that perspective as well. So I was thinking those two
Mm.
lines. Yeah.
Yeah, Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. Correct.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Anybody else has mm, a comment for what Prabhu is asking, or anything else you would like to ask?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhu. All do this, all glories to the Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for just like the free flow sharing that you had this morning. I was waiting for somebody to speak that Yasyam Vaishruyamanayam verse from 1.7, because it's very touching verse for me. It gave me a lot of inspiration when it still does. That it's just like a lot of hope giving verse, that particular verse for me, that just by approaching Srimad Bhagavatam, and also the approaching person Bhagavata, even just to be in their vicinity, and where they where they are, it brings a lot of clarity of thoughts and relieves one from the confusions that caused by Soka, Moha, and Bhaya. So it's very touching to me, and I got excited when you quoted that verse today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And this discussion also is very close to me about what to do with the portion of Bhagavatam which sound or look like very scholarly, because I'm not at all a scholar person. I like everything emotional, heart connect kind of a topic, but at the same time, uh, I think to me, or when I observe what happens to those who are asking that question in the scriptures, or when they are speaking, Dhruva Maharaj speaks about all this creation, and after he's being touched by the conch, he's in ecstasy. And then he glorifies Lord Vishnu by saying that, oh, you created this. I mean, I can't even remember how what he says, but the thing that he says is far out about how inside the ignorance there is vidya and avidya. He speaks all this kind of stuff, and for me, I just feel like when they are speaking, and when Prabhupada's writing, when there's so many acharyas writing about it, it feels like they are in a wow moment more than uh, trying to understand moment. It's like they just wow, how superb my Krishna is, like that. So I was thinking they are letting us know how to approach these topics. Just have, when a child sees a sky with lots of stars and the moon, I remember, like, we used to just sleep on the terrace in India when we were children. Just look up and say, like, you can't count the stars, but then you just feel like, hey, where are these coming from? Oh, I wish they were inside my home. It's like it's wow feeling. So I feel like that wow feeling helps me to just keep moving. I don't even try to understand. That's my difficulty. I don't even try to understand certain things. I just leave it. But when we read, I just want to have the wow moment, like all of these souls are having. So that's something that I wanted to just share. But yeah, thanks a lot for your your sharing and the way you communicated the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. So thank you. Hare
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Mataji. All right. So, well, I think, thank you so much for all that participation and discussion. I I feel really honored and fortunate again, once again, to have this opportunity to share my appreciation of Srimad Bhagavatam and also being in association of devotees who have such great attraction for Srimad Bhagavatam. And my prayers to all of you and to Guru and Krishna that I can always be in the association of devotees who are always immersed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, and have a wonderful rest of your day.